When it comes to leveling, Shadowlands is like no other previous expansion. For the first time in WoW history, we get to choose in which expansion to level from 10 to 50, and it does feel great. But I'm not gonna talk about it today. I've already covered it in one of my previous videos and gave my recommendation on which expansion I personally consider the best. This time I want to talk about leveling from 50 to 60, the last 10 levels that we all spend in the Shadowlands world. If it's your first character, you pretty much have no choice but to stick with the narrative campaign, but as soon as you max him up, your alts will have an option that's called Threads of Fate, and this is where the main question pops up. Which one is better? My answer is, it depends. Welcome friends, I'm Gibson, and in this video I'm gonna be comparing the two main leveling options that we have in Shadowlands, the narrative campaign and Threads of Fate. I hope that this video will help you decide which one is better in your specific case, because from what I see right now, there is no clear winner. I've come with a number of points that I consider the most important when making your choice between the two options. You can see them on your screens right now. This is my personal opinion, and if you disagree or think that I'm missing something, feel free to hit me up in the comments. Let's go. Questing routes. The narrative campaign is a quest-by-quest storyline that introduces you to all 4 covenants, their zones, stories, and abilities in a strictly defined order. You go zone by zone and must finish the quest line to be able to move to the next one. Side quests don't count. The core point here is strictly defined. You can't pick a questing zone yourself, you start in Bastion and finish in Revendreth. End of story. With Threads of Fate, similarly to Legion and BFA, you are allowed to pick the zone that you like to level in and have full freedom of choosing any quests or routes that you want. You will also get a quest that shows your zone progression and should help you with understanding when it's time to switch zones. It's a simple fill the bar quest, and as soon as it's complete, it'll give you a good chunk of XP and you'll be able to pick the next questing location. Level of engagement. The campaign is a very well scripted adventure that is supported with lots of beautiful cutscenes to make your leveling experience less pressuring. I personally find it much more engaging than Threads of Fate, which is just pick a quest, turn in a quest type of thing. Of course, after going through the campaign several times, it definitely can become boring, but hey, if you're bored of it already, go with Threads of Fate and feel the power of freedom. Covenants selection. With Threads of Fate, you must pick your covenant right away. This can be a bit tricky because you can't properly test the abilities, so unless you know exactly what covenant you're going with, this can be a hit or miss. With the campaign, on the other hand, you field test each covenant ability while questing, and by the time you hit 60, you will most likely know which covenant is the right for you. Bonus objectives. The narrative campaign does have bonus objectives available. They show up on the map as soon as you come close, the same way they did in previous expansions, although the campaign itself is designed to take you to the max level through the storyline only, and you absolutely don't have to do them. With Threads of Fate, you will have all bonus objectives shown on the map right away, and on top of that, you will also have world quests available. And with world quests, you'll be able to start collecting anima for your Sanctum before the max level. Early Sanctum progression. Even if you start collecting anima early, it will not hugely impact your Sanctum upgrade progression. In both cases, Sanctum upgrades start only at max level, so all anima you collect from world quests can be used only then. It will not be counted towards Replenish the Reservoir quest, and you will not be able to get a renown point for it right away. When I leveled my hunter through the Threads of Fate, I collected around 600 anima, and the only thing it helped me was the mission table research. I was able to start it as soon as I hit 60. That's pretty much it. Plan B. This may be important for some of you as well. If you choose the campaign, you're allowed to switch to Threads of Fate at any point. But as soon as you switch, or if you go with Threads of Fate right from the start, you won't be able to switch back to the campaign. Keep that in mind. Leveling speed. Surprisingly enough, I did not notice a huge difference here because both options are pretty quick. If there is a difference, I'd say it's about a couple of hours. Unfortunately, I can't tell you exactly how many hours you will spend leveling. I never tracked this. Time tracking is more for speed levelers. But I do have a tip for you that will make your leveling experience faster regardless of the path you take. Some of you already know this, but some don't. If you have a bunch of toons sitting at level 50, go ahead and log in on each of them and park them in a resting area. The thing is, when new expansion starts, the level cap is increased, but until you physically log in on a character, the resting experience bonus will not start accumulating. The maximum amount of rested experience you can get is 150%, 1.5 levels. You use it only when killing monsters or gathering resources, so it should stay with you for the first 4 or 5 levels, depending on the path you select and your leveling habits. Leveling through dungeons. This is my least favorite but also a viable option, especially if you have a guild group with banners. If you decide to level through dungeons, Threads of Fate will be better because you pick a covenant right away and are able to use extra abilities in dungeons. But as I mentioned before, in this case you should already know which covenant your character goes to take the most benefit from it. Flying points. This is definitely not a decision making, but rather a good to know, especially before we unlock flying. With the campaign, you unlock flying points while going through the quest line, and by the time you're 60, you will unlock most of them in each zone. But with Threads of Fate, you will have to unlock them on your own, which actually can take some extra time because you'll have to ride to each point regardless if you have a quest that you can turn in there or not. And there is no account-wide map that I know of which you could buy to unlock all Shadowlands flying points. We used to have it in BFA and Legion along with the whistles, but I couldn't find it. I personally find it time-consuming. Okay, let's summarize. Both options are 100% viable and will do their job. But at the end of the day, only you can decide which one is better in your specific case. In my opinion, the most important question that will affect your decision is which covenant your character goes to. If you know the answer and don't care about the storyline anymore, pick Threads of Fate. If you're not sure, pick the campaign and do some field testing. Don't forget that if you pick the campaign first, you will be able to switch to Threads of Fate, but not the other way around. So, if for example you're deciding between Kyrian and Necrolords, then start with the campaign and switch to Threads of Fate when you test them both. With Venthyr is more difficult because it's the last covenant you will be testing, and I'm honestly not sure that it will make sense to switch for the last 1 or 2 levels. For my characters, I will go with Threads of Fate for my Paladin and Death Knight because I know for sure that they go to Kyrian and Venthyr respectively. Shaman will most likely go through a full campaign, and Druid will probably switch somewhere in between. For other classes that I don't play much, the campaign is a go-to option. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget about the subscribe button and like the video if it was helpful. I wish you fun leveling experience and see you in my next video. Cheers!